Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you're viewing this fairly recently from having seen part one, because I forgot a few important things. Probably the biggest thing I forgot was to talk about varnishes. So here, as you can see, I have a matte and a gloss. For you non-painters out there, matte just means flat. It's not shiny at all. And gloss, of course, means shiny. So what are varnishes? Varnishes are clear paint that is essentially an acrylic resin, like it says here, where it's not a paint. This will protect the finish that you put on your miniature. I think we've all seen miniatures that haven't been varnished where the paint has rubbed off, like this D&D miniature here. Come on, focus. No. There we go. As you can kind of tell, the tips of his horns, especially this one here. Oop, got paint on my thumb. This one here, I'll point here. The paint has almost completely worn off the tip of this horn. It's worn off this backpack. And that is because I did not varnish this model. Had I, the paint would still look as good as it did when I painted it. This is Harbeck, by the way. Not Justin's Harbeck, but one from my own campaign. Player character, and I'll come back to this miniature in a minute. Why would you need both? Well, when I'm painting my mechs here, I use matte finish for the majority of the mech, and I use the gloss to pick out the cockpit glass and other shiny things. So this catapult here, as you can tell, the body itself is not really all that shiny, but as you can tell, the cockpit glass here is shiny. And I like that because it's supposed to be glass, and glass is shiny. So that's kind of a point of having both. For most applications, though, I would say get a matte because, I mean, most people aren't shiny. I guess you could argue that you could make like plate armor shiny, which this one isn't. It's just the kind of natural silver finish. And I guess I'd be tempted, since I haven't varnished this one, to actually varnish up the plate and see if it's shiny. But anyway, so this video we're going to focus mainly on washes. And what a wash does is it helps you fill in all the cracks and details. So this is a finished Banshee, and this is a different sculpt of the same mech, but as you can tell, this one, the white has all these black lines that picked out all the detail. And it's also here on all the blue, where you can just see all the fine detail lines. This mech hasn't been washed yet, and like you can see the lines, kind of, but they're just dead. And what the wash does is it's a specially formulated paint that's kind of sit down in the cracks and just make it easier to see. For organic models, it'd probably be best to use a brown wash. There's a lot of brown wash on this, but there's also, like for the chain mail here, you can kind of tell that there's black between all the little chain links. But for face detail, hair, horns, brown will probably be your safer bet. You're gonna, after you do your first wash, you're gonna be like, oh my god, I ruined my model. Because believe it or not, this catapult and this charger are going to look pretty much the same when this charger is done. This charger started out as a nice vibrant red, and this has been washed with black, and as you can tell, it just looks like crap. It's because it's not done yet. We'll have to bring out the highlights and dry brush and get this one back to looking like this one. But we'll get there. That's not where we're at yet. We're going to come back to our locust. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to talk about something else I forgot that I was going to touch on. When it comes to base coating, this locust, which is now all done, is going to mostly be all green, which is why I painted it all green. But you shouldn't necessarily always paint all your models one color when you know that they're not going to be that color, which is why this Banshee is half unpainted, because I haven't painted the rest of it blue. But why would I paint it all white if I know it's going to be blue? So, for example, Titania here, when I painted her, I painted everything gray as a base coat for her armor, but I did not paint her face, I did not paint her hair, and I did not paint the sword blade because I was going to go a much brighter silver than the rest of her armor. And I also did not paint her cape gray because covering up darker colors with lighter colors like red or white or gold here is a pain in the ass. You don't want to do it. You're just adding extra work to yourself. So rule of thumb, I do the color first that is going to be the majority of the model. Titania here is mostly covered in plate, so she's going to be mostly gray. So I started with gray, did all the armor plates first. Then I came back through and did the peach kind of flesh tone for her face. I did the red for her hair, which you'll kind of see I didn't varnish this model early on either, so her hair's chipping off. But just did this red afterwards, and then I washed the whole thing. Keeping, again, the sword wasn't washed because it's basically just the lightest silver I have, and that's all I did to it, just to kind of make it look distinct from her armor. And once you've got it washed, again, that'll be a different video, but that's kind of where I'm going to take you through today, we're going to touch back on this locust. But real quick, just to kind of prove that I'm not a complete hack when it comes to some of this stuff, this stalking spider, which these are all from Battletech, by the way, is just bare black. I've done nothing to it but paint it black. And in these bright lights, you can kind of pick out detail, but it's still really dead. This atlas, though, I have highlighted with grays. So the detail, like here on the chest, is a lot easier to pick out. If you'll see here on the arm, I highlighted the edges a brighter gray so they stand out. All the scales here stand out, and the chest has gotten some gray and everything. So just sitting on the shelf, let's get this thing to focus a little bit better again. This has so much more life than just a bare black model, and this actually isn't very hard to accomplish. But again, with base coating this mech, I did everything black except the head, because I knew the head was going to be kind of the skull motif, because that's the Atlas's thing. It's got a skull head. So white is I think, as I said in my last video, is the worst color to paint. So this I intentionally painted last, because any black that got on there, I did not want to have to cover white with black with white again. So I just had to do the white the once, until I wash it, of course, but we'll get to that. So yeah, here's proof that I can do black to some degree. I'm still not a master, but it's better than I've seen others do. So yes, this locust and washes. So for this locust, black might be a bit overpowering for the green, so I'm going to go with my mid-brown wash. Now, washes are available as themselves, but you can also make washes using your standard paints. I'm not going to do that today because I have this pre-made, but you can take any color of paint that you have and dilute it with like 3/4 water. So if you have like 1 drop of paint, you'd add 3 drops of water and swirl it around. What you want is something that is really, really thin. Let's see if I can do this without spilling everything. What brush I want. So this paint is really thin. You can kind of tell here, you can actually see through it. And that's because this wash is mostly water. So back to our locust here. Washes you can do to kind of adjust your taste. I get a lot on here, and you just kind of start putting it in all of the low areas. Like that, I've got too full. But you just want to kind of start picking out the detail of your model, regardless of what type it is. And this brush is crap. It doesn't hold any paint. Grab one of my many others. And just start going to town here. Now, when you're done with this step, you don't like it, your lines aren't dark enough, you can always go back again and again and kind of until you've got the look that you're going for. And this is going to dry and look pretty weird. Like I said earlier, you're going to think, oh my God, I ruined this thing. How am I ever going to get this back to the way I want it to look? And we'll get there. Just trust me here. We'll get there. So as you can kind of see, I'm just filling stuff up. And this is looking like it's going to be really blotchy, and it kind of might be, but I'm just worried about getting enough pigment in these lines here. And it's really hard to screw this up because anything you do like too much of will end up covering later. And if you don't get enough, just simply let it dry and put a little more on. And the brown doesn't cover nearly as much as the black does. Black is really powerful. No entendre meant there. But if you want it to be there, you're happy to find it. Some happy painter crap in there. And if you play Battletech out there and you happen to like this model and be like, hey, when I look up the official models, I don't see this, that is because this is from a company called Strato Minis. They have a couple lines of their own distinct miniature lines. This is from the Retro Hardbots line. And they're kind of all Battletech centric, but you can use them for anything you want. I know there's the Cav game out there that these would work great for. And these are by no means licensed. They're just kind of in the style of kind of classic Battletech mechs. But they're a good company, run by a good guy. They're out of Poland, but they have quick shipping. They're just a nice crew. And I won't bore you with the details. I'll kind of do what I did with the last one. You've kind of seen enough of what I'm doing. I'll end here soon, finish this up, and we'll pick up on this Locust at a different time. Peace out.